too. Greg? Thank you, Steve. Well, I didn't come equipped with a fancy PowerPoint presentation. I just came equipped with facts and figures and logic. Some of you guys know me, some of you don't. My name is Greg Purvis. I'm here representing City Yes. I didn't move here from out of state. I've lived in north central Indiana for not quite 61 years now. So I'm a lawyer, practice at Keystone at the Crossing. I too have no further political ambitions. That's been batted around and it just flat isn't true. I am here because I am convinced that like every other community, even remotely its size in Indiana, Fishers needs to be a real city with a real mayor elected by the people and not appointed by 9 insiders. American democracy that we fought our revolution for, that we fought wars for to protect our own rights and the rights of others, is about electing our own officials. But it's not just about democracy. You know, Wayne talked about, you know, when he first started looking at this, that he wanted to get involved in having a voice to elect the mayor. Well, I agree 100% with him. But that right should be for all of us, for everybody in Fishers, not just the council. A presidential candidate that some of you may be surprised that I would quote, very recently said, "We don't belong to the government belongs to us." That was Governor Mitt Romney, and I agree 1,000% with that. It is our government. It is our right to elect our officials. It is our right to insist that they be responsive to us. And how do we do that? You know, I had a whole big speech that I worked on, but after listening to Wayne, you know, my friends and neighbors, I'm just going to talk to you about this, okay? I'm going to talk to you about democracy. I'm going to talk to you about why the mayor-council system that every other city in Indiana and many throughout the United States have is the best for Fishers, that it's the most responsive to the citizens because the mayor is elected by the citizens, because it has real districts that can address real neighborhood concerns. Does anybody really think that Sunblest and Geist have the same interests? About some things, sure, they do. But they also have different concerns. One neighborhood's far older than the other. One neighborhood is far more affluent than the other. But also, it keeps you, the current system, and the reorganization, will keep you from being able to elect your own neighbors to represent you. We have 2 folks sitting here, right here, at this table, Pete Peterson and Renee Cox, that had that experience last year. They were not on the council. They were running as new members of the council. Both of them overwhelmingly won their own districts. You're required to live in districts, but everybody's voted on at-large. But both Renee and Pete lost by the won by the tiniest of margins because the rest of the Fishers almost outvoted their neighbors. That's what's wrong with all at-large voting, because it can destroy your right to know your own neighbors and who's the best to represent you. Okay? And we've had this example just in last year's election. And so real city government has a mixture. You have 9 council members, 6 elected strictly by district. You live in the district, that people that live in the district vote for their district representative, but you also have 3 at large. So you have a blend of neighborhood representation and all community representation. In addition, the mayor is also elected at large, and he or she has to go out and sell their vision to the community to get elected. It isn't just log rolling for special interests, and we have plenty of that now. But it is about selling a vision. It is about executive leadership, something everybody in this room knows about. The mayor, the elected mayor, the real mayor, is the leader of the community. And why is he the leader of the community? Because the people chose him or her to be the leader of the community. A committee didn't appoint them. Now, city managers can be great people, but they're administrators. They are not chief executive officers. You can think of them as the chief operating officer, and that would be accurate. But they're not policymakers. They're not executives. They're not hired by the people. They're not voted in by the people. They don't ever have to sell their ideas for what to do to anybody but the council. And there is some misinformation being put out there about council manager governments and city managers. Some of you may have seen something that my friend Mr. Crane and his group are putting out. It cites a lot of information about council manager governments and refers to Dallas, Texas, San Jose, California, Phoenix, Arizona, and Virginia Beach, Virginia. Well, those are council manager governments. But everybody here knows how to use Google. Go Google those 4 cities. Every single one of them has an elected mayor elected by the people. Every single one of them has a council elected by districts. One of them does have at-large districts as well. So what they're telling you is not entirely accurate. There is a city manager, and the powers vary from community to community. There's as many council manager forms as there are cities that adopt it almost. One of the things that's been put out there is a claim that there's some kind of inconsistency between having an elected mayor and having a council manager system. There isn't. There is not. As I've shown you, there are 4 examples, all have elected mayors. Their powers vary from community to community, but that's not what's being proposed under the reorganization plan. What's being proposed is an appointed mayor from an appointed council, and I'll get back to that, who appoints a mayor who's purely a figurehead, that has no chief executive power at all. All that person does is preside at the council meetings and perform ceremonial functions. That's it. That person isn't selected by the community. That person's not selected because they have a vision for the community. That person's not selected by the people to be their leader, and Americans like leaders. That's why you elect the president. That's why you elect the governor. That's why you have an elected chief executive at every level of government in this nation, except for Fishers and some very small towns. Fishers has the same form of government that Cicero has in northern Hamilton County, population 4,500. 20 years ago, when Fishers' population was 1/10 what it is now, we had the same form of government. And it was probably very appropriate for Fishers back then. But we have grown astronomically since then. And one of the problems has been something that should be near and dear to all of your hearts: economic development. This is primarily a bedroom community. There have been strides made toward bringing businesses in and trying to bring in more businesses in. But I've talked to a number of people in this room, and they are concerned about what has been in the past a lack of an appropriate model for economic development for Fishers, and the lack of it for the future as we continue to expand and take up pretty much all the rural vacant space that's left. How do you get to economic development? With a mayor. Now, to be sure, you have to elect the right person as mayor. You can elect a bad mayor. It's happened. But the nice thing about mayors is they have to stand for re-election. If you don't like your mayor, you vote them out. To get rid of their pretend mayor, You have to vote out 9 people, not 1, or at least a majority of the council who would go your way and hope that they do it. Americans like to vote for their leaders. I hope the people of Fishers like to vote for their leaders. At least that's what I've been told. That's why we've been doing this for 5 years. I've been talking to people literally since 2006 about it. People in Fishers don't understand why this isn't a city, why they can't vote for their mayor. They don't get it. And that's why we passed out petitions, got the petition certified, and presented it to the town for a referendum 2.5 years ago. We presented our petitions May the 3rd, 2010. We asked for an election November of 2010. It didn't happen. Instead, after that, after having had the City-Town Study Committee that Steve Carter moderated in 2009, they came up with this idea and started this reorganization that adopts the name, but not the process and not the form and not the protections of being a city. It was done to block our process, to block people from trying to elect the voters, to elect a mayor, and to confuse the voters. Well, I'm here telling you, I've been at all these meetings at Town Hall. People are confused. The news media have covered about people are confused. Well, we believe they've been confused on purpose, because there are some people that do not want Fishers to select their own leader. Back to the council manager point, my friend Mr. Scott Fadness down here is a member of the ICMA, International Council Manager Association. They issued a report on the municipal form of government for 2011, and they asked, how's your chief elected official selected? Voters elect directly 76%. Of that, 68% actually call them the mayor. So a majority of the council manager professional association, their members elect their own mayor, their own chief executive. They are not inconsistent. Nor, and I'll tell you this as a lawyer, under Indiana law, are they inconsistent in Indiana law. There is not a thing in the statute that would prevent a mayor of a Class 2 city, such as Fisher would be, from hiring a qualified city manager as a chief administrator. It could be a deputy mayor, it could be chief of department of administration, it could be any other title that the mayor and the council, because the council would have to create the position, can approve on. Now, there's another big selling point that they've been going around saying that they can save, or have a chance to save, up to $1 million by going to the reorganized city. There's a very convoluted argument for that just doesn't hold water. Most of you probably know what the odds are of winning the Indiana lottery or the Powerball or Mega Ball or any of those others. It's millions to one. There have been some reorganizations in Indiana. How many of those reorganizations have seen the savings that they're talking about? And I'll answer that in a minute. The savings they're talking about is roughly $750,000 by supposedly trying to get the policemen and the firemen out of Social Security. Well, folks, that's not going to happen. You know how many times that's happened in Indiana? 0. None. Never. Not even Indianapolis, when they merged with Marion County to form Unigov, and this has happened more than once, not even then did they get out of Social Security, because it was only a change of government. The reorganized Fishers would have the same elected officials as it has now. An appointed council, 7 members of which would be the current town council. 1 member would be the current Fall Creek Township trustee, so it's no surprise that he's in favor of it. And the other would be appointed by the president of the Fall Creek Township Board, Mr. Reiki, the president of the Fishers Town Council, Mr. Fawless, and the president of the Hamilton County Commissioners. Those people don't even stand for election until 2015. The reorganization would take effect next January 1st. So you're going to have an appointed council, self-appointed in some cases, an appointed mayor who has no power, who's nothing but a figurehead, and no election until 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, if you really don't like mayors, don't vote yes on question 1. Vote no, and stay in town. You're better off. Back to the Social Security question. Our moderator here today used to be the Attorney General of Indiana. In 2006, he issued an official opinion to the Public Employees Retirement Fund, a copy of which I have right here. It talks about the reorganization of Indianapolis Police Department and merging the Sheriff's Department and Indianapolis Police Department. And Attorney General Carter ruled that not only could they not get out of Social Security, that it was bad policy to do so. That you would have to completely dissolve the entity of government to get out of it, which we're not doing. We're just changing the form of government. The other $250,000 they talk about is a so-called administrative savings. Well, I was just talking to a member of the Fall Creek Township Board who had this discussion with the trustee and the other board members and said, where are we going to be able to get that from? We're already the most efficient township in the county. You know, they couldn't answer that. And these functions are going to go to Fishers. They're going to be doing the same thing, probably at higher wages with the same people. There is no savings. It's smoke and mirrors. There's no savings. It's not democratic. It's not fair. And I urge you to vote no on question 1 and yes on question 2 for a real city, for a real mayor. If you've got questions, please go to our website, cityyes.org, or email us at info@cityyes.org. I see my time is up, and Steve's going to throw me off the platform. Thanks. Thank you.